Frankly, no one is going to be as mean to you as you are to you about being perfect. Hi there, my name's Leija. I'm a real-life lawyer on a mission to demystify the law and the legal profession, and I'm a raging perfectionist. I have suffered from perfectionism my entire freaking life, and sometimes that means that I produce really great work products, but for the most part it means that nothing's ever good enough and I set expectations way higher for myself than anyone else is setting for me, and it leads to burnout, depression, and exhaustion. It makes me feel absolutely insane. Now, I haven't ever been able to overcome my perfectionism, and I'm not sure if that's even possible, but I have learned some tips and tricks on how to manage and cope and trick my brain into being less of a perfectionist. And I'm going to share those tips that I've learned with you now in the hopes that maybe we can all remain unbothered well into 2021. I highly suggest writing these on little post-it notes and just putting them around wherever you need them, your workspace or in your bathroom mirror, to help remind you and get this information into your head. Okay, first and foremost, I think the most important thing to always remember in the back of your head is that perfection is impossible. Are you a human? Great. You can't be perfect. It's impossible. We're humans. Nothing will ever be perfect. Nothing. Nothing you make, nothing in your life. Perfection is a myth, and it's not something that can ever happen. Once you wrap your head around this, you start to realize that making perfection the goal means that you will never be satisfied, you'll never be happy with where your life's at, and you will always be anxious and thinking that you could be doing more and better. No one else is expecting you to be perfect either. This is an imaginary bar that you are setting for yourself, and you're the only one that's setting that bar. And if there is someone in your life who is expecting perfection from you, you need to kick them to the curb as soon as possible, because that's frankly rude. The sooner that you are able to understand and accept and wrap your head around the fact that perfection is impossible, the sooner you're going to be able to maintain a healthier, less anxious life. Second tip, perfection is the enemy of completion. Or sometimes I think of it as perfection is the enemy of good. You just won't be able to produce anything if you sit around agonizing about whether or not what you're creating is perfect. Remember that thing where perfection isn't possible because it doesn't exist? Yeah, whatever you're trying to create, it's never going to be perfect. And you setting that bar of perfection as your end goal is getting in the way of you just getting it done and making it good. Something can be good without being perfect. And if your focus is on perfection, you're going to overlook the fact that it's good, and you're not going to be able to just get it done. If you want to advance in your career or in your schooling, or if there's just something that's been on your list for forever that you've been meaning to do but you haven't gotten to it because you just feel so much anxiety because you know that whatever you're going to create isn't going to be perfect, you need to just accept it because your perfectionism is getting in the way of it just getting done. Okay, third tip, really important, the 70% rule. I don't know who came up with this idea. I'm going to link up here to a video that I watched that told me about this idea because it changed my life. It blew my mind. So if you're a perfectionist, odds are that the bar that you set for yourself is at 100%, if not 110%, in terms of not only the speed that you complete something, but also the quality of your work. Like, everything has to be done at 100 to 110% at all times. And if it's not, then you're bad and you're wrong. Sound familiar? So if we take the 2 points that I just talked about, that perfection is impossible and that perfection is the enemy of done, and we think about how you are setting the bar at 100 to 110% for yourself for every single thing that you do, then that's a really unrealistic expectation because it's impossible for things to be perfect. You see how these all work together? So do yourself a favor and lower the bar. The percentage is going to be different depending on where you're at and how your brain works and what you want, but for me, 70% makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. You're still doing better than average, and honestly, if you're a perfectionist, what you consider to be 70% is probably what other people would consider to be 100%. And I can probably guarantee you that no one in your life is expecting you to perform at 100%. And like I said earlier, if they are expecting perfection out of you, you should probably kick into the curb ASAP. So if you're consistently delivering 70%, odds are that people in your life are going to be happy with that. But the 70% rule goes even deeper than that, and this is where my mind was blown. So first of all, your return on investment in terms of the time that you're investing in perfecting something decreases significantly as time goes on. So what I mean is, day one, you can probably get something to 70%. I mean, it depends on the project, obviously, but hypothetically speaking, let's say you can get to 70% on a project in day one. Then Then you spend all of day 2 getting it up to 80%. And then you spend all of day 3 getting it up to 90%. Remember, 100% perfection, not possible. So say 90%, you say, okay, that's good, and then you turn it in. Now say over the course of a week, say you work 7 days. If you're working at 70%, it takes you 1 day to get to 70%, and you complete 7 projects at 70%. In that same time, if you're trying to be perfect, you will complete 2 projects at 90%. Still not perfection, but your return on investment is smaller over time. So you'll have spent a full day getting to 70%, and then your day 2 would take a whole day to get that extra 10% up to 80, and then another whole day to get maybe another 10% up to 90. So you're going to be more productive if you're working at 70%. And you might be saying, well, I'd rather just produce 2 things at 90% than 7 things at 70%. And this is where it really gets nuts. So studies have shown that repetition makes you better. You know that instinctively. The more you practice something repetitively, the better you're going to get at it. Also, feedback can be invaluable to your growth, meaning that the more constructive criticism you're getting, the more you're going to learn, you're going to be able to implement that in what you're creating, and you're going to be able to grow. If you do something 7 times in 1 week at 70%, that gives 7 opportunities for feedback and 7 repetitions of what you're doing, as opposed to at 90%, you're only getting 2 opportunities for feedback and 2 repetitions of the project. Obviously, your work and my work, I don't do the same thing every day, such that I'm repeating the same thing over and over again, but likely you are working in a specific field or on a specific area where things are overlapping enough that the more repetition you have of projects, the more it's going to build on top of each other. So what this means is that your 70% is going to get better over time, because the more that you repeat things, the more you're going to learn and the more you're going to improve. And you're going to improve at a faster rate than if you were to do 2 things in a week at 90% and only have the opportunity for repetition and feedback those 2 times as opposed to those 7 times. Over time, your 70% is going to get better. And on top of that, giving 70% means that you still have some left in the tank, so you're not completely burnt out. And you'll be improving without that relentless self-flogging that comes from the perfectionism in your brain telling you that nothing's ever good enough. Because you're setting the bar at 70% already, so you're going into it accepting that it's not going to be perfect. You're also going to be going into it probably with a more open mind for criticism, hopefully constructive criticism, because you're saying, yes, I understand this is not 100% perfect piece of work. However, it's my 70%, and so whatever feedback I can get, I can implement it, and then maybe my 70% will get better. So you're saying to yourself, this may not be perfect, but it's okay because I'm learning. And isn't that the end goal in a career, for example, that you're continuously improving? No one's expecting you to be perfect from the beginning. No one's expecting you to get it from the beginning. If they are, that's an unrealistic expectation, and that's their problem. And I'm serious when I say that this rule has changed how I work. I am less afraid to ask questions because I'm going into a situation not expecting perfection from myself. It also means that I have more grace for other people, because usually the way that you treat yourself trickles into how you treat other people. So if I'm not expecting perfection from myself, I'm probably not going to be expecting it from other people. I feel like I'm getting valuable feedback, and I'm less afraid to get that feedback because I already know that I'm not perfect. And I'm saving myself the time and energy that I usually spend agonizing over whether or not what I'm making is perfect, whether or not people think I'm perfect, what people think of me, what their impression is of my work. Anytime that little perfectionist voice pops into the back of my head that tells me, you know, you should probably reread that email for the 4th time, but this time think about how stupid the recipient is going to think you are. Anytime I hear that voice, all I do is I yell 70% and I hit send. Why? Because most of the time, something that I've produced, I feel that I did it at about 70%. Did I try? Yes. Did I put the time in? Yes. Great. It's probably at around 70%. Send it off. Done. That way I'm getting things done, and I'm saving myself the energy of pushing for 100% when that is not attainable. It means that I'm going to burn out less frequently, and I'm going to have more energy in my tank at the end of the day. Because frankly, no one is going to be as mean to you as you are to you about being perfect. And one bonus tip to remember if you are struggling with perfectionism, and that is that you are enough. Perfectionism often seems to rear its ugly head when someone has experienced some sort of trauma, usually in their childhood, where someone important to them did not show up for them. Maybe emotionally, maybe physically, someone abandoned you, maybe there's someone in your life that just wasn't the person that you needed them to be. They left you hanging in some way, and your little baby mind, because it didn't know any better, thought that maybe if you tried harder, if you acted more perfectly, that would keep them around or make them come back. This is a perfectly valid coping mechanism for you to have learned as a child, but it is not serving you, because anyone in your life who doesn't think you're good enough does not deserve your time or energy. So when you are having those perfectionist thoughts in your brain, and they'll continue to come up even after you've implemented these tips, just keep saying that mantra, I'm enough, because you are enough. And the more you say it, the more you fake it till you make it, the more you'll begin to believe that you, as you are, imperfect, human, is enough. I hope these tips are helpful. I hope you're able to implement them into the new year and maybe save yourself some energy and some agony and some anxiety, because Lord knows we could all use a little more peace and quiet in our lives. So I hope that this might bring you some peace. Let me know if you have questions in the comments, or if you have other ideas, or if you liked this and want to see more of this type of video from me. I'm happy to hear, I'm happy to help. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and hit subscribe if you want to hear more from me. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Goodbye.